Happy holidays! I have finally returned from everybody's birthday dinner. Took a massive road trip to San Francisco and just really got a chance to spend time with my family. Things like we completed 8 jigsaw puzzles as well as just made some amazing food and games and fun with our family. Speaking of friends and family, this gentleman I've known for a long time through MPI and the meetings industry. He recently had a job change, which we're going to hear about. And the best part is that I thought this would be a perfect time to find out what's going on with him. So let's bring to the stage the one and only Eric Rozenberg. Eric, what's going on?
Hi, John. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm great. And you?
Doing fantastic. As you can tell, again, I'm back here in the studio. It's so weird to take I think I spent I was gonna say I was off virtual for 9 days, but I just produced a program when we had a power outage, so I guess I wasn't that far gone. But speaking of far gone too, Eric, for our friends who don't know you, I want you to do a little intro of who you are and what, especially now, what are you up to?
I'm originally from Belgium. I moved to the US in 2013, became American 2 years ago. I have been very much involved in the meetings and event industry for about 20 years. I had my own corporate events agency, work in over 50 countries in the world. And then I opened a SaaS company, ticketing platform here in Northern Latin America, which I just left end of November. And now I am helping business owners to structure and grow their business. And I'm also looking to acquire a small business. So that's what I'm doing.
So, Eric, you've been in the meetings industry for a long time. You're also a member of Entrepreneurs Organization, which I used to be a member of here in Seattle. We met through all the event space type of things. Tell me about this last change. I mean, one of the things in the event industry is some people like it uh, the same way, but it looks like you've done a lot of changes over the course of your time. What led to this last change?
Well, yes and no. I feel like looking back, I've always tried to have fun in what I'm doing, creating something new, providing value. When things are running, I'm kind of getting bored, which I think it's like millions of people in the world. When I was a kid, they didn't know about ADHD, which I'm sure I would have been diagnosed 15 times. So I love really what I love doing is two things: is bringing people together, building teams, and brainstorming, looking at a strategy and putting into execution with the right people. And I always, in all my businesses, try to remove myself from the daily operation as soon as possible and have the right people in place. So I love surrounding myself with people that are more brilliant than me, that know better when things have to be done, but also that I can create the culture and having the small business running. So in a way, I had changes, but that has been the common thread, if you want, is building teams and developing businesses.
That's fantastic. You want to give a shout out to one of the team members you got to put in place in your last company? I mean, that's how you can architect great exits as opposed to disastrous exit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not one. I'm extremely proud of the team we've built here. It's about 10 people now.
Mhm.
And it's probably the greatest team I've ever built. They're all amazing. And what I really, it's not one shutout. It's more the culture that I'm very proud was able to instill. For instance, once a month, we had a session like Ask Me Anything. And they could truly ask anything. I think that's where how you create that culture of openness. And don't get me wrong, results have to be there. But when you have people that understand why they're doing something and also appreciate the fact that they can make mistake, they can be open, and the others are there to support them and not trying to stab them in the back, that's where you really create energy. And so it's a shout out to all of them because they've demonstrated in different situations that they would support each other and they were there for the customer. So yeah, it's probably what I'm missing the most. There is that amazing team. But yeah,
The people,
not
right?
one specific shout out, but really the team there.
The ask me anything leads me to something that I've been professing here on virtual, which I've been professing though as part of team building, is how I originally found it. So, Google did a bunch of research for something called Aristotle and found that the number one factor for the high performing teams that they had in common was psychological safety.
Hmm.
I've actually taken that and transferred it here to virtual. That there's virtual meetings don't get are not really good until you create a level of psychological safety. So I'm curious, like you as a leader, what are some of the things that you felt like you did to create that level of psychological safety that allowed people to really ask? You can tell people ask me anything, but people quickly know the difference between, oh wait, I asked something and I got bashed for it, as opposed to, oh no, you asked a really hard question. I'm going to respect that and try and really answer it. What are some of the things that you as a leader did to create psychological safety?
I've always answer honestly. So there were some part that were confidential because of the strategy of the headquarters. I would just tell it. But the rest of the time, it was genuinely answering the question. When I didn't have the answer, also acknowledging it, and not. I was trying to find the right word in English. When you have a tough question, instead of trying to elude the answer, just face it and give what you think in terms of the answer that should be done. So I remember when we came back, for instance, from working totally virtually, one of the question was, so how many days are we going to come back? Why don't we stay totally virtual? And I answer first, I don't believe in the culture when people don't never see each other. Even friends that have started business 10 years ago that were completely virtual, they have moment where people come together. And second,
Mm-hmm.
I told them, look, the three of you this morning were discussing this customer XYZ in your office. If you were virtual, you don't have those spontaneous conversations for the customer. So is it going to remain like 3 days in the office, 2 days virtual? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're doing right now. Nothing is set in stone, but those are the reason. So I think also as a leader, to answer your question, you have to be very transparent and honest in your answer, explain what you're trying to achieve, the vision you have, the direction, and also afterwards take the decision. So some people might have enjoy staying at home for 4 days out of the week. Say, no, we're coming back for 3 days. This is what we're doing now and why. But that there's no sacred cow. And also to your point, which is extremely important of psychological safety, is to make sure that not only the tough questions are answers, but also that people feel that they can talk. One last example I want to share with you, which I think is extremely important. I have one colleague that interrupted another colleague. And then I stopped him. I said, I'm sorry, I don't think that the other person had finished to express their thought. So it's a question of respect and just calling it the way it is.
That simple piece right there, right? We're always creating culture,
Mm-hmm.
whether you know it or not. When you think you're not creating culture, that is also a part of creating culture. And so, just like what you said, when people talk over each other, that's when my first complaint was about people talking over each other here on virtual, as to come back to it a little bit and say something really challenging, like, "Well, if you're the host of the meeting, it's kind of your fault."
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're the host of the meeting, you
Yeah.
create the culture for the meeting. And if you let people talk over each other and you don't do just what Eric said, which is just stop, wait a second, we need that person was still talking,
Mm-hmm.
right? You need to stop that in the moment it happens. Otherwise, it comes into this growing problem, or it's expected. As soon as you give that expectation, like it's okay to run over somebody else, now you have a whole different playing field of where people recognize going, well, the only way to say something is to run over somebody else. And now you wonder why it happens all the time. I'm really curious though. I think you had a Belgian word that you were trying to bring out there. You said, I want a word for trend. Do you remember what the word was?
No, sometimes I'm trying. I know what I want to say, and I'm looking for the word, but no. But I think to your point, the way it's not interrupting, listening to people, and also creating an environment that depends, of course, of your character and the culture you want to instill. But I like some sarcasm, which means that I'm taking sarcasm from my colleagues as well when they're teasing me.
Yep.
That's to me is very important. But I don't think at the end of the day, I don't believe in safe space. I know it's very politically correct to say that. I believe in safe people, but there is no safe space in the world. There is a safe, you can create with safe people, a place where people can feel safe and be safe. But as such, the safe space as such, to me, it's like telling my kids there is no extra credit in real life. You live in a bubble, and then you go out and realize that the world is not necessarily as nice, and not everybody as nice as you think it would be. So it's really the same way that people leave, they don't leave companies, they leave leaders.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that there's no safe space, but there's safe people that you can work with.
Well, I love that. I think you're right with that too, because like when the team that you built, if you have the wrong person there, there's certain things you can't say,
Yeah.
right? And so, but if you get the collection of right people, and they could be very different people, but if we have those some of those things in common, saying that uh, you can say these things safely, I think that's really key. I think the sarcasm comes into it too a little bit too. We're just saying when you feel, I mean, this is what comedians do. Comedians find a safe space to talk about things that are really controversial and using humor as kind of like the cover for it.
Yeah.
And I think that you can do that in a business setting where people feel safe enough. They know that you're not trying to offend them. Like really where the basis of where you're coming from is
Yeah.
like, we're trying to actually grow our connections together and not destroy them. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think those are really key. Now, this is really, now it is fascinating. Of course, you come from the meetings industry too, as your basis, but you said that you've had to experience a lot of virtual, of course, too, in the last 2 years. So it
Yep.
sounds like at one time your company was 100% virtual. I'm
Yes.
just kind of curious, what are some of the key factors for you, Eric, that have to happen for a virtual meeting to be engaging?
Mm. It one first thing is who's running the meeting. That's for sure. The second is to have a clear agenda. It's not because it's virtual that you're not going to have an agenda. At the contrary. And then what needs to happen is that making sure that everybody is expressing themselves and have a chance to do so. And you cannot have long meetings. It really short. I mean, you cannot have long meetings in real life either, but more so in the virtual settings. And again, going back to my lack of attention and long term in one go, you really need to break out on the different topics you're talking about, instead of having long 2 hours. I mean, that doesn't work at all. So that I think are the first elements, and then again, using humor. If you can play a funny video or doing something that is related to the topics, but it's breaking the seriousness, if you want, and going back to do business seriously, and have several breaks that are available. You don't get people on Zoom for 2 hours, 3 hours in a row. It doesn't work. And they just may be there. You see their face, but that's all there is, and you're not achieving that. So going back, one is the person's running the meeting. Two, having a clear agenda,
Yeah.
and three, making sure that everyone can express themselves.
All right, Eric. So, everyone's experimenting with AI. So I took a chat
Yes.
GBT,
Yes.
and the question was, what makes a virtual meeting engaging? Let me just share with you. Number one, clearly defined goals and objectives. Right. Two, active participation. Three was engaging visuals. Four was interactive elements. Five, good communication. I think that was kind of on your list. Six, structured agenda, definitely on your list. Seven, involvement of all attendees on your list. And follow up, which I'm sure was kind of on there. Isn't that hilarious though that ChatGPT, with wherever it came with, I think nailed quite a few of the similar factors. I know a lot of people are talking about how AI is going to, possibly change specifically the event space, but other
Yeah.
things like that. I just thought that was actually pretty humorous that quite a few of
That's
these
funny. Yeah.
were on ChatGPT's list.
Yeah. No, you know that this chat GPT is it's really interesting. And you have the same as usual, the two type of people. You have the one who are going to look, because it's still in beta version. So they're going to look to say, look what the AI wrote, it's ridiculous,
Doesn't work.
it's false. And then you have the other type of people like you and me that thought, oh, wow, that's amazing. What can we do? As a matter of fact, my brother-in-law is a retinal surgeon. And so I type in ChatGPT, what is the current state of retinal surgery? And I filmed it and I sent it to him and I said, Ellie, I'm writing an article on retinal surgery. What do you think? And he was like, oh my God, what is this coming from? So there's a lot of potential. I think that, and I think I don't know if it's Gary Vee that say that one day. He said, basically learning today, you can find everything for free. Oh no, it's at Elon Musk in one of the interview. He said, you have all the content for free. So the question is not what to learn. To me, is how to learn. And that goes deeper into what we do in the meetings and event industry. How do you use the available information to train people, to develop people, to make them better, instead of just having people sitting there and studying by heart like I had to do it? Best example I can give you, the periodic elements in chemistry, I had to learn that by heart, which is ridiculous. So it's more, how do you use AI to collect the information, access the information, verify the information, and basically do your job even better. So I'm very excited with the opportunities there.
Well, that kind of led me to Eric to this thing I talked about that's kind of become reality, which is what I call digitally assisted living, right? Digitally assisted living is like things like this. We can take the periodic table of elements, and now I can blow it up here. And so why I don't need to remember any of these things is that I can put them here on the screen with me.
Ha!
Right?
Nice.
You know, and so digital assistant living said that if you could actually have the context of like listening to the conversation and bring us the information exactly when we need it, right? And as it
Yeah,
comes up, and so I'm curious to see. AI is one of those things I think that could do that, which is bring us
absolutely.
information, right? As I'm talking to Eric, bring me up his website, bring me up his LinkedIn. We can bring in things about there. Let's see. Oh, I have your website here. Oh, yeah, that's right. You have your book, Meeting at the Sea Level, right?
Yes.
That's a recent book. Oh, there's that. Even on your website, you're actually giving this book away for free.
Yeah, for those who are interested, it's something I wrote, I think 5-6 years ago. It's
Aha.
basically all the methodology that I've developed with my business partner in Brussels, Georgiana, in 2008, 2009, where the previous crisis. It's basically, and it helped us a lot at that time. It's basically aligning meetings with the organization strategy and how to do it. Which I think that, it's not a question you asked, but as you spoke about the book, the idea was, and it's still the same, people are focusing too much on logistical side. Not that it's not important. It's crucial that logistics comes very well. But if you speak to one of your customer who's a commercial director or is a CEO or a marketing director, they assume the logistics will be done. What they are interested in is how you're going to help solve their problem. And their problem is to pass the message within the company, to engage with their customer, to beat the competition. That's their problem. And so that's really the approach to do that.
We're in the events industry. This is totally off topic, but what do you think of the Southwest meltdown that's happening right now?
I think that it's hard, but I feel, I'm going to tell you honestly what I feel for the pilot. I feel for the flight attendants. I feel for all the staff of Southwest, because they are working days and nights to try to solve the solution. I've seen a communication, I think, from their commercial director who, again, facing the reality and acknowledging what's going on, trying to do better. And I think that people are very quick to judge and destroy a brand which for I don't know how many decades has been the poster child of how you should treat customer.
Mm.
So is it bad what's going on? Absolutely. I don't think that is the only airline that to which that could happen. But to me, it's I really feel for all the people working at Southwest and trying working days and night to help their customers. Now, I'm sure there'll be lesson to be learned. I'm sure there'll be a business case as well. But I think there's also opportunity the way they've been handling customer in the past to correct that and to learn from it. So, but it's and don't get me wrong, we it's not Southwest was another airline in the summer where my wife was missing her luggage for close to 2 months, which finally came. So I know, and I know what it feels to be in that situation. But
Yes.
again, there we have friends working there, the people in the industry. It can happen to other airlines. It can happen to a lot of people. So let's learn from that, but don't overkill that, and don't judge the people working there.
1967, Southwest Airlines was founded. This is old,
Uh-huh.
basically, as I am. There was a great article, I think, apparently put out by one of the pilots that just said it was a breakdown in the system. Like they had a leader who
Was a
people.
CPA.
Yeah, yeah. There was first Herb who like basically built the whole thing, the
Yeah.
founder, and then the next person came in, kind of ran it by the numbers, but didn't upgrade the software. And now you got to this point. And again, you're right. You have all these amazing people who work for the airline who make amazing stuff happen. And now that you just can't get them to the right place. I thought that something that was really interesting in the article said that the system is still antiquated enough that you have to notify everyone of their shift by phone.
Mm.
There's no automation for that, and we're talking about thousands of people. Somebody else also gave me a piece. They said they went to Austin, and Austin's baggage carrier level is covered with lost bags right now.
Yeah.
And
I've seen two things about luggage and Southwest the last 48 hours.
yeah,
One is exactly that, is showing, look at that, all the luggage. And the other one, which I thought was great, was another person said, listen, look at all those luggage. I actually went to all the luggage I could see if there is a phone number, and I text the owner to said, by the way, my name is so and so, I'm just a passenger, but I've seen your luggage. You might be happy to know that your luggage is here at this airport.
aw, that's as cool as the Japanese cleaning up the
The
World Cup,
stadium,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
The
And that's the same situation, different attitude.
That's the humanity. That's the part where in the meetings industry, right, we're all about people and relationships and
Yep.
hospitality. No, that's really cool. I have not seen that, so I'll pass that along. That is a great because you just want to know. This would like we were talking about in the medical field, like when it's the worst part is when you don't know,
Yes.
right? You just even if the diagnosis is bad, just tell me. Just tell me what it
Mhm.
is, so at least. But there are times when you sit around and you don't know, and you sit around in that unknowing, and that's kind of one of the worst parts. Well, I'd love to hear two pieces here. Number one is so you've seen the virtual, and you've gone back partial of the time, which is
Mhm.
great. Uh, what do you think the future of virtual is going to be like in terms of either your business or the world's business? What do you think is the future that can happen for virtual?
Well, I think there's two parts to your question, is how you use the virtual and the people working. So for the people working, I think that there's always been some sort of hybrid. Again, I gave the example of friends that started their own business 10 years ago, completely remote. They still gather once a quarter with the people. So the human beings needs to see each other. And we haven't talked about it, but the mental health aspect of not having the opportunity to see people for too long, and what it did and what it's still doing on people in general, but also elderly people, it's extremely damaging. Now, in terms of how do you use the virtual, I think more and more, yes, you can save on travel, and you can have more family time, and I definitely appreciate that. I would use that for regular meetings that could have been done and remote instead of in person. But personally, when it comes to attending trade shows, when it comes to attending some conference, the serendipity of the conversation, what you're learning when you're in the room that you don't learn virtually, I would miss. I missed that when we couldn't have it. So to me, it's not or totally virtual or totally in person. I think it will also depend on the goal you want to achieve. If you have an organization that you need to train people, some of the training can be done virtually for sure. When it comes to negotiation, I'd rather be in person than being online. So it depends really on the business objectives that you will decide whether it's virtual or not.
So I think what you've seen now is more choice because
Yes.
you saw too, like a lot of our good event tech friends, Dahlia, like we have a whole
Yes.
consortium, Kiki, we have a whole consortium of people around there.
Yes.
What I think is amazing now is that there's more choice than ever in terms of when to choose those things, and now I think we'll spend some of our time deciding what is the right venue or what is the right
Hmm.
vehicle for this. And because and to me, it's kind of turned into a bandwidth problem. As a technologist, maybe you'll like this, Eric, which is the bandwidth problem is when we meet in person, we're having the highest amount of bandwidth possible. Right,
Yes.
it's basically infinite. Like you can smell and touch and taste and may sometimes feel things that you can't do that until the internet and this experience right here gets to that level. We're always getting some subset of that. There's that, and then if you go down, there's audio only where we go back to just conference calls, and then you go down to like email, and then you go one more level
Hmm.
down to text, and you can achieve certain things with it, but you can't achieve. You're trying if you're trying to get a goal and need this much bandwidth, and you're trying to use this bandwidth to get it. Most of the time, you're going to fail. And
I totally agree with you. The point to me is always coming back the essential. What is the essential? To start with the objectives.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
are you? What are you trying to achieve? And then you decide the different option you have, which one is the best one in terms of outcomes, in terms of cost, in terms of organization, speed, time, whatever. But you're always going back to the objectives that you're trying to achieve, and then you decide.
Well, speaking of goals to achieve, you started this new company. I'm just curious if you can describe again this new company you have, and what's the real goal or passion that you have for this? Because you're in the great place that you got to make a lot of different choices. Why are you choosing this next thing as your most important thing?
Well, I love helping people. I love helping them. People were asking me, how do you describe what you do when it comes to helping business owners? And my answer was, I'm a big fan of Yoda, as many people know. So I said, Yoda in Star Wars? I said, yes, I'm the Yoda for business owners. I love helping people, helping them get results and guiding them so that they succeed. And they are the one shining. I love that. So
Mm.
some of the activities I'm having in terms of group coaching, mentoring, consultancy are linked to that. And that's something I definitely want to develop. The other thing is I've always been wondering all the opportunities I had in my life to meet people, the networks I've built, the experience I had. What do I do with that? And over a year ago, I read a book called Buy Then Build
Hmm.
from Walker Dybel, and it's all about acquisition entrepreneurship. So it's acquiring small business, and so that's I'm putting a team together. I'm putting advisors together. And I'm going to acquire one first business in 2023. The idea is to, instead of starting from scratch, is acquiring something that is existing for at least 5 years. You have a tsunami of baby boomers retiring that don't necessarily have a succession. For those who have their business, they're too small for private equity. They don't have a succession plan, but they have a team. They have something that they've built. And that's where I come into the game, because we can take that over, give them also benefit from that, but also keep their team and grow the business. That's what I'm looking at doing.
Hmm. Fantastic. Well, I'm in that category. So, as always, Eric, I hope to stay connected with you. It's so great that we
Absolutely.
became friends years ago. And again, I was really excited to see your transition. Also, because I know you're a busy guy. Like, I know you would actually, for once, have a free moment, maybe have a free moment to hang out. And speaking of hanging out, Eric is in Florida. Where I might get a chance to go hang out with Eric in February next year. So, but
Awesome.
most of all, Eric, I just want to say to you and to you and your amazing family, happy holidays.
Thank you.
And thanks for spending a little time here on this interview.
Happy holidays to you as well, and looking forward to seeing you. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Eric. All right, we'll see. Thank you. That wraps up our interview today here on the Happy Holidays, December 29th. Holy cow. Happy New Year to all of you. I'd love to hear some plans and ideas what you're going to do for the New Year's. But until then, check out these engaging virtual interviews. But by the way, Eric, I think you're like interview number 61 or 62. So excited that these are cruising along. If you want to be interviewed, by the way, click the link inside of there and select interview. Find an hour, and we'll pull one of these interviews for you because I want to find out who you are. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Don't we start people and keep old people? Show you got heart.